Join Bev Lazar, spiritual mentor, Reiki master, psychic medium, with Shelly Greenlaw, doula, yogi, and intuitive energy healer. Two sisters walking the path of spirit to share their experience and advice in all things energy, intuition, and beyond. The Empath Sisters.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Empath Sisters. You're hanging out with Bev and Shelly. And today's episode, we're going to chat about what we've kind of been up to just in this most recent week, I have to say. Wasn't too long ago, but my beautiful sister here, Shelly, just celebrated her birthday. I know she shared it online, what age she is, but I'm not going to say it on here. So if you saw it, you saw it. If you didn't, you can go look it up. But yes, Shelly did have her birthday on September 28th. And yeah, how was your birthday? What did you do? Anything special?
It was a good day. It really was. I got to celebrate it with our oldest daughter and our two granddaughters that day, and our son came over, and yeah,
Nice.
it was a good day. We didn't do like a whole lot, but we did do some
Yeah.
things with our grandkids. So we went and took them to a movie, and
No.
we got to have some what's that kind of stuff? It's like I always get it backwards. It's
Mm.
from Dairy Queen, and you get like, is it pizza treatza? Is that how you say it? Or
Treats of
treatza?
pizza.
That's it. See, I always get it backwards.
I'm like that too. I say
Yeah.
things backwards all the time.
So we had that, and yeah,
Nice.
we
Was
instead
that
of
like your
going,
birthday cake?
no,
The
not
treats of
really.
pizza? Oh, okay.
It's been a thing lately, I guess. Yeah, kind of. I guess but I prefer, like, not that I don't love it. I do like it. It's just
Yeah.
personally I prefer like either just a cupcake or
Yeah.
like a really nice dessert from
Oh, yeah, right.
somewhere.
You like dessert.
I
Yeah.
do like
I
dessert.
forgot.
Yeah.
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 I was like, oh, yeah, right. That's the thing. You really like desserts.
Yeah, I do. And yeah, and
Nice.
so, and like, I normally go out for supper. We usually go out for supper for my birthday, but this year, because we had the grandkids, I was so excited because like this is kind of like a tradition in our family, like in our kids, with our kids and stuff. We always love to do our own pita pizzas, and so I was like, oh, we'll do that, and it
Nice.
would be fun. And
Yum.
yeah, so we did
Oh,
that,
so
and
good.
yeah, it was good. And
It's awesome.
yeah, it was a good day. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
was. And um I know that it was kind of a chilly day, actually. I was going to say usually on my birthday it's quite nice, but I
Yeah.
don't know. That day was a little bit chilly, so I was a little bit disappointed in the weather. I'm not gonna lie. It was like,
Yeah.
of course, because even the day before it was like really nice out. It was like plus 20. And I'm like, oh
Oh,
yeah, sure.
nice. Yeah.
So
It's like, no.
yeah. Yeah. So I was like,
Oh,
but you know what? It didn't matter because really for the most part we were inside anyway. So
right. Yeah.
like it still turned out really nice, and it was good,
It's
and
awesome.
celebrated with all the people that I love, and including
Yeah.
you, because you did get to
Yes,
come the day after. So
I
that was
did.
yeah.
I didn't get to be there on her birthday.
Mhm.
I was still working and her kids were going to be there. So me and my youngest son traveled up there on the Sunday. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was awesome. I went up to Shelly's for just a couple of days. I had messaged her, oh my gosh, I think it was like end of August, I want to say. And I was like, hey, I need to come out. And
Yeah.
we looked at our schedules because I really wanted Shelly to give me some cranial. And I was like, I really need something. I'm gonna
Yeah.
drive. I don't care if I need to drive all the way to your place. And so I was chatting with Shelly and we were kind of looking at dates and she's like, well, I'm only free this day and this day, really, because you were
Mhm.
still working
Yeah.
at your other
Oh, yeah,
like
that's right. I forgot about
Muggles
that.
job kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so and with my teaching schedule, I was just like, well, that's the only weekend I can come.
Hmm.
And but of course she's going to have companies that for her birthday. But
Yeah.
we went up Sunday and I stayed till Wednesday morning,
Hmm.
and it was awesome. I left super early, traveled out there. Um, uh, it was definitely colder your place than here. Um, so that kind of sucked, but that's okay. It is what it is. It's to be
Yeah.
expected with fall.
Yeah.
And it was so awesome. I also got to see Shelly's kids. They
Hmm.
were still there. I was trying to get there as early as I could so I could catch them before they did their hike up north.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I had the privilege to see them and spend some time with them as well. That was super lovely.
Hmm.
And then we just hung out. We did a lot in the like
Two
two full
days.
days that we
Yeah.
had. It's like, yeah, well, yeah, we actually had 2 days. And Shelly and I did a lot. We did a lot of shopping. That's typical.
Yeah.
Just every time. I feel bad, that's the thing about living in Edmonton or living somewhere where people just like don't live. So when they come, they want to take the opportunity to do those things. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I was just thinking about that today, like how boring that must be to like keep going back to the mall and walk around and do the same things over and over with like any family member that comes down. Mind you, you didn't have to come, but we just love spending time together. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. So yeah, we hit up a couple malls and did a
Hmm.
bunch of things, and Shelly and I did some work together,
We
and it
did.
was definitely I did get my cranial session in, and that was amazing. You guys, like seriously, my neck and my shoulders were so tight, and I have been going for massage and the things, and I was just like getting some relief, but I was like, I could hardly shoulder check. I was like, this is just painful. And Shelly gave me cranial, and I was like, oh my God, it's like magic. I
Hmm.
could move my neck, I could shoulder check. It was just like everything melted away. It was bliss.
Yeah.
So Shelly didn't feel at the time she wanted a session, but
No.
she does now. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I was
too
gonna say
late,
I do
unfortunately.
now.
I know, but
But
that's okay.
mhm.
It'll happen. Shelly's going to be coming through Saskatoon a couple times here, so I definitely have some time to spend together. So
Yes.
yeah, no, wonderful trip. Spent a lot of time. I went to a Pilates class with Shelly.
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
my gosh.
forgot we did that too.
And I think that was what is it that we're on?
Okay,
Like
so the type of
what type of
Pilates that
Pilates?
it is it's called reformer. So you're like on a
Okay,
machine all the time and doing, with springs and your own body weight with the springs. So it can be as
right.
tough as you want or not as tough. And I
Yeah.
did notice that I remember looking over at you and I was like, oh, she should have got more springs on hers.
Yeah, it was I've never done that kind of Pilates. I've done Pilates like on the floor.
Yeah, on the mat. Yeah.
So, yeah. So this one was interesting. It was a 50-minute class,
Mhm.
and yeah, you're laying on this box that rolls up and down and pretty much. And then
Yeah.
there's like all these straps and just it just looks like some kind of contraption, honestly. But they just kind of guide you through it. And so I was kind of trying to watch everybody and listen to her. The lady kept coming over and like
Yeah.
fixing me a little bit. But yeah, I agree. I could have had the springs a little bit stronger. I've been doing a little bit of weight training. And so it was just like, wee, like it just felt really, like I felt like I was just rowing a boat. And it was just like, I felt like I was having super fun.
Yeah.
And I did, break up a little bit of a sweat. So that's good. I was doing something, but she kind of like kept us going. But it's weird to like work out laying on your back.
Yeah, but that's because it's low impact. Any type of Pilates
Yeah,
is a
totally.
low impact, right? And but
Hmm.
I really like there's just so many exercises that I can't do. And
Right.
so when this came to Sher Park, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it. And
Yeah.
I literally like I still remember my first day I went there and tried it. I was like,
Yeah.
I fell in love. I was like, this is it. This is for me.
This is my thing. That's awesome.
Because I'm one of
That
those
is
people that
awesome.
love to just even lay in Shavasana all the time if it's yoga, really. So
So laying down and being able to exercise is
great.
it's awesome. Yeah. And it was weird for me because I'm just laying there and I'm not, for me, because I've been doing weight training is really trying to get me to pay attention and focus on feeling my body and the muscles that I'm working and stabilizing myself. And so when you're on this box that rolls up and down and you're trying to stay with the class, I found that I couldn't stabilize my core because it was just, I was focusing on everything else. So
Oh, okay.
my core was sore for sure. It still is. It's just like, feels like I did like a million sit-ups and I'm like, oh yeah. And my back was angry, but it was good that Shelly gave me grief after that. It was just like, oh my God. But super fun. Never tried it. I don't know if they have it here in Saskatoon or what, but I know that we're going to kind of maybe look into that, but I don't know if anyone else out there knows. But that was, yeah, super fun. Something new, kind of like one of our little adventures, of course. Here I'm just running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to keep it together. But yeah, and then on our way home, it's funny how like the whole time I was there, I feel like I've completely gone through a shift again. And I say this every time I shift where I'm like, man, how do I feel so in tune and so in sync and like ding, like it's almost like I'm just getting everything so sharply. And I think this every single time. Wow, I'm really on point. And then I up level and then it's like, wow, how could it get even more than what it was? Like I thought I was so on point then. And that's what I feel like I have recently shifted through is something like that. And I really noticed it on our drive home, like when we talk about signs and like just paying attention to what spirit's broadcasting around us and blah blah. And so yeah, on the drive home, as soon as I got in the car, we're driving, we're ready to get onto the highway. And I'm in my mind, it's like, for whatever reason, I'm like, Chris is gonna call me. And then he starts calling me. I'm like, I knew it. Okay, carry on. And then I had to get gas. I didn't have enough gas to make it all the way to Lloyd. So I was like, I better stop in Innisfree. This is where I stopped. Get my gas. It was like +2 there. It was like, that was awful. Anyway, so then we're driving again. And it's interesting because I have to bring up this part of the like backstory is that I want to say probably like I had an intuitive circle that I hosted a couple of weeks ago. And it's for any of my students have taken my courses. They could come and it's just like an intuitive circle where they're playing with their intuition and playing with other students who have been in class. So it's a great safe place to play and practice. And so my daughter Isabel had come to the class because she had taken intro way back when I first taught it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come. And anyway, so she brought 2 of her decks. And when I looked over, it was the first deck I ever owned, and it was a unicorn deck.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was wrapped, yeah, and it's wrapped in pink silk with moons and stars. And I went, oh my gosh, like my deck, like I haven't seen it for so long. And she's like, yeah, I thought I'd bring it, but I really want to use my new deck tonight. And I was like, okay. And I was like, can I play with it? And she's like, yeah, of course. So I take it over and everybody paired up. It was uneven. So everybody pairs up. And so I'm just sitting there. I'm like, well, I'm just going to play with these cards a little bit. So like I open up the silk cloth and literally I hear, hello, old friend. And I'm like,
oh,
it was so like, oh my gosh. I was like, keep it together. I was like, oh my gosh. But it was just like an old dear friend. This old man's like dear, like voice just, oh my gosh. It just was so emotional. I was like, oh yeah. So anyway, so I was like, hello. So I started shuffling them and I started playing and pulled a couple cards and I did take a picture of them and stuff. So anyway, so I'm like, unicorns. Okay. So then again, a couple days later, I had an animal come through in my dream. And so I went to the animal spirit book, which we all know we love. And it was the big one. So I'm like flipping through it and I'm trying to find it. And I don't know what's wrong with me, whether I know the alphabet or not, but I feel like I go back and forth like through it, flipping to find the animal, even though it's like it's in alphabetical order. So I'm like, flipping through, and I noticed as I was flipping, I got to kind of the end, I noticed that there's unicorn in the big spirit
Yes, there
animal
is.
book.
Yeah.
And I remember going, I just saw it and I was like, that's interesting. That there's unicorn in there. And I was thinking, I can't recall ever seeing a unicorn in the field or anything. You're like,
Right. Yeah.
the physical world. So okay, sure, can show up. But I'm like, I've never had a unicorn sign. And so, and then here Isabel's bringing the unicorn deck. And I'm like, okay, it's cool. So now fast forward back to like my drive home. And I left Innisfree, got gas, and we're getting closer to Lloyd. And Tristan starts to get sleepy. And he's like, I'm just going to have a rest before we get to Lloyd. I'm like, okay, it's fine. And so whatever. And then I'm driving, and all of a sudden I'm like coming up to a semi hauler. And as I get closer to the semi hauler, there's a unicorn on the back of the semi truck. And I'm like, what? Like, I've never in my life seen a unicorn show up somewhere, and never mind on a semi. Like, I was like, that's random. And so then I pass it and I get along the side, and there's another one on the side, and it's like this business like logo. And then I get to the truck, it's on the door, and I'm like, okay, I'm not imagining things. It's really all over this truck. It's its company. It's real. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. So like unicorn is showing up. I'm gonna look it up in the book kind of thing, right? When I get home, because I remembered it's in the spirit animal book. Like, that's cool. So get to Lloyd. Tristan wants to have lunch. But what was interesting as I was driving through Lloyd, you know, you have to go really slow.
Yes.
And it was lunchtime and it was so busy. And in my mind, I saw an accident. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be in an accident. And then all of a sudden, ambulance is coming. And I'm like, what? Oh my God. So, okay, so we all pull over, an ambulance goes by, and that's fine. Then we eat. And I'm like, as I'm like going to leave the restaurant and I'm heading back onto the main strip of Lloyd again to head back to Saskatoon, that ambulance is like across the street from me, and no lights. It's just sitting there. And I'm like, oh, okay. Wherever this ambulance went, obviously everything was okay. You know, then I turn left and I'm heading now to Saskatoon. And I get to that last set of lights at the co-op and I stop. And again, ambulance is coming again. I'm like, oh. So, okay, that was random. So then I keep going, and I am now almost to North Battleford. And as I'm like approaching North Battleford, I think of my middle son. I'm like, oh, person's gonna call me. And then he calls me, and he's at work. So it's like random that he would even call me. Hey mom, blah, blah, blah. He's chatting with me. I'm like, oh, like, yeah, what's happening today? So I hang up with him. I'm like, yeah, we're just almost in Battleford. We'll see you at home for supper, kind of thing. And as I'm getting to North Battleford, there's a store Shelly knows I love to go to in North Battleford. It's a clothing store.
Yeah.
And I had seen like last week that they got some new purses in, and there was one I really wanted, but I wanted it in a different color. And so when I looked, it said sold out. They just had the one color, and I was like, nah, okay, whatever. So I left it. And of course, when I came to Shelly's on Sunday, they were closed. So I was like, okay. So anyway, so I'm driving Battleford. I'm like, you know, the only thing I didn't get when I was in Edmonton was a new purse. And I was like, I should get a new purse. And I was like, oh well, whatever. And then I was like, maybe I should stop at this place. Maybe I should stop. It's Wednesday. They'll be open. So here I go. I go to the store and I'm like, I'm going to go look at that purse. So I park, and Tristan's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just going to run in. I just want to look at the color of this bag. I'll be so quick, you know, just in and out. I've been thinking about it. Just want to check it out. So I run in there. I find the brown one and I'm looking at it, and the lady comes and she's chatting with me, and I'm like, really wanted this one in black, but I saw it was sold out, and you don't possibly have one. It's just like, be perfect. And she's like, no. And she's like, but you know what? Actually, I just got my order. Let me check. So she opens up both boxes. Everything's wrapped. So she just finds anything that says black. And she's like, I only have one pack here that says black. So she opens it up, and it's the freaking purse I wanted in black. I'm like, it's like, the lady must have thought I was just whacked out, because I was just like so happy. I was just like, what? I can't believe it. Like, I literally thought about it on the drive of like how perfect. If I could just get it in black, I'd be like, that'd be magic. So anyway, and we're like driving. We leave North Battleford, and then I come up to another semi-holler, and what does the semi-holler have on it? Clover leaves. I'm like, what? Like, good luck everywhere. It was just like a magical day. I was like, what is happening today?
Mhm.
Yeah. I should have bought a
That's
lottery ticket, but
that's
anyway,
awesome. You
it
just
was
made
awesome.
you just made me think of something. I was like, oh yeah, I just had a dream yesterday,
Yeah.
which is so random of why this would be in my dream, and I should check
Oh,
the animal spirit book
oh,
and see
you
if it's in
should.
it. But it's
Yeah.
called crawfish. And I was like,
Oh,
that
weird. That's random.
I know. I just thought of that now. And I was like, oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah, you
forgot to
should look
look.
it up.
Because I was like,
Yeah.
right. I don't know why I would dream that. It was so bizarre.
That is really bizarre. Well, and which reminds me, well, way back at, where were we? Let me think. I think it was before we got gas or just after gas. So before Lloyd, I was talking to Tristan and we were talking about how we like to see animals and this and that. And I was like, I really want to see a moose. Like I haven't seen moose for
Mm,
years and it would be so cool to see a moose. But I always, when I put it out there, I'm like, but I don't want to see it on the highway. Like
right.
I want to
Yeah.
see
I
it
was about to
over
say,
there, I'm just like, and Tristan's like, yeah, not close. And I'm like, yeah, no, not like close enough I can see it,
yeah,
but not
but not.
like in my
Yeah.
area where I'm going to encounter it.
Mhm.
So anyway, that had happened. And then all of a sudden we seen these like, those moose signs, right? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay. So when we left Battleford, yeah. So before I even saw the cloverleaf truck, semi, all of a sudden I like look over and there's a moose in the field, like right there. And I'm like, oh, I'm like literally shaking Tristan. I'm like, he's like, what?
But
It was huge, but it was amazing.
I bet.
Holy
Like it,
man. I'm like,
but
what's
like
happening today?
but that reminds me of, remember, I was like that young when I was younger. Do you remember
Yeah.
those times where I'd be like, I would just
Mhm.
randomly, remember that one time? Like
Yeah.
I randomly picked up the phone because I knew somebody was going to be, oh,
They're going to call. It's like, hello. Yeah, totally.
everybody was like,
That
that it didn't even ring. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I just had to get up and get it. Like,
I was waiting. Yeah, literally. And even before I left on the Saturday, Isabel was going to come over and we were doing game night Saturday night. And I was
right.
like, oh, I should ask her what time they're going to head over. And um, then it was just like, I had popped in my mind. I grabbed my phone. She goes, I was just thinking about you and I was going to call you and ask you what time we should come over. And I was like, I
Mhm.
know. It was almost like I knew you were thinking
Yeah.
about it. It was like, it's how it came through my mind.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. This is my norm, but yet for some reason, these random times I get so surprised.
I
You
know. I was just
know,
going to
it's
say,
just like,
I, I know that's like anything we do. And I know our kids probably get annoyed of us when we
totally.
say, I knew that was going to happen. And they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, right. But like,
Yeah.
honestly, they're like, I'm in the
Honestly.
same boat as you. Like, I just have to think it sometimes, or
Yeah.
it just randomly pops in and it
Yeah.
is happening. And that's how it
Done.
was for me the last like couple times. I feel the same way as you
Mm-hmm.
do. I feel like everything is a little bit more sharper, or just I don't know if it's just because maybe, like you said, a shift has happened, or if it's just because of all of what's happening in the universe and all the planets and
Yeah.
all, all that stuff, because it's the
Mm-hmm.
same way for me. It just ran like it feels random, but it's not. And I agree with you. Like it does feel
Yeah.
like it's a surprise every time for us, but it's just
Yeah.
like we should know. But
I do know. It's just, I think my
I
conscious
know.
mind gets surprised where it's like,
Well,
whoa,
Well, no,
I'm like,
yeah, it's because like you always used to say to me, sometimes, our brains just don't
this
like,
doesn't get it.
it's no different than if we've seen a spirit, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
brain goes, did I just see that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Doesn't
that.
get it.
Right.
Doesn't
Exactly.
understand those like experiences. It
Right.
just, yeah, it doesn't make sense to it. And I get
No.
that, but it's just so funny for me to hear that because I'm just in there. I'm in the broadcast. I'm picking up on it. It's like, but the brain's like,
Mhm.
whoa, how
Right.
did that happen? It's
Right.
like, oh, but that's our normal member. But it's still like,
It's
whoa.
still, and you made
It's
me
like, but
think of
whoa,
some,
I just noticed it.
yeah, and you made me just think like after you talked about your unicorn cards, like
Yeah.
I even remember that was your first deck. Like there were so many times like stuff with that deck. But I just
Yeah.
remembered I just gave you my first deck for you to
Yeah.
use at your space. And
I know.
I just thought of that. I
I
was like, oh yeah, oh my God, I gave you my deck,
I
my
was thinking
first
about that
one.
at work today. I was just like, Shelley ended up giving me her first deck. I could feel the hesitation, but you still gave it up,
Yeah.
just the way you talked about it. But
Yeah.
it will always be at my
Well,
center.
and that's
So
what made me go like, that's why I was like, well, no, it doesn't matter. It's going to be in that space. It's not a big deal. But
yeah, it's not
at
like
the
we
same
got rid
time,
of
it
it.
was like, I just remember how like attached. And so I know like you were attached to that unicorn deck. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
was attached to this deck that I gave you. And like
Hmm.
it was so bang on all the time. I just
Yeah.
remember it. And it's just like, it's so, it's
I
just so
know.
weird that,
It's so weird.
when you go through other things, like I remember picking up decks thinking like, oh, this is the deck for me. And then I'd open it and I'm like, no, why did I buy this?
Man, I've
And
done that so many times.
me too.
I don't have
I've
them
had to
anymore.
donate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I pass them along. But,
Yeah.
like it's just funny how you just have this, you just know, like there's that one deck
Yeah.
that you've always had an
Yeah,
attachment
it's
with,
just, yeah, it's just my
like,
original. Like
yeah,
I got that unicorn deck when I was pregnant with Isabel,
I know. I
or
remember.
before
It
then.
was before that because
It was
you
just
had
like,
just moved like to Redwater at that time, and I remember you playing with them a lot.
oh
And
yeah, so I was pregnant. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I know.
Yeah,
I
it was just,
remember.
and I said to her, I'm like, if you don't want to play with these ones anymore, I'll take them back home. She's like, no. She's like, I love that deck. I'm like, okay, then you have to
Yeah,
pass it on to your children.
right. Like hang on to it. Don't give it away. And if you do, you give it
Don't.
back to me.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, if there's a time you don't ever want them, just
Hmm.
give them back to me. She's like,
Yeah.
I will, but I'm keeping them. I'm like, okay, as long as you keep them, I'll be super happy. But yeah,
Yeah.
I have bought so many decks, but what I learned is I was drawn to them. I opened them and I'm like, oh, I instantly knew when I opened it, I was like, oh, these aren't for me. I knew that they're
Yeah.
for somebody else, right?
Yep.
This was like way back at the beginning of the journey of like, man, I was just
Right.
buying different decks, which I never used cards in readings. Isn't that so funny? But I
I
buy so
know.
many
Never
decks
did
and I never
either.
ever used them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'd open them and be like, what the hell? Like, it's like, and it felt like an empty box when I opened it. It was like there was
Mm,
nothing in it. That's how I felt, like just no energy whatsoever. I was
right.
like, well, that's not how they're supposed to feel.
No.
And then I would just leave them and kind of stacked them up. And then certain people that were coming for sessions or whatever, it was like, here, these are for you actually. And crystals were
Mhm.
like that. And just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just such a
Totally. Oh, I
cool
know.
thing. But yeah, it was such a neat experience. And even my mediumship readings, even just this week, were like
Mm,
mind blowing. I just,
yeah,
it's just amazing. It's
it
literally
is.
been so amazing. I'm just so grateful.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, for the shifts and
Yeah.
the increased awareness and what's being broadcasted and just picking up on it. And yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
great trip and I had so many signs. Spirit was just speaking to me like all the way home. And it's just comforting.
Yeah.
Just like,
Totally.
I just
Yeah.
love it. I'm just like a little child.
Well, it's
So
almost like
yeah.
that feeling of, like how I always used to say, like, you feel like you lose it, but you don't,
Mhm.
obviously.
No, you don't.
And
You're just going through static.
right. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're just going through that, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, it's back. And it
Yeah.
feels like it's just back, even though it was always there. It's just it's intensified. So it
There.
is, yeah, like
Yeah.
it's, yeah. But anyway,
You're just
yeah.
like you're just in tune. And actually, when we were at that intuitive circle, what was
Hmm.
so cool is because I had a bunch of students that had signed up and were coming.
Yeah.
And one of my students, when she got there, she had come straight from work and she was like, oh, I forgot my cards, because you can bring your own decks to play
Right.
with, right? And she's like, I forgot my cards. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have like the ones that I use for classes. I said, you can
Right.
use those. You've used them before if you want to use those. And she was like, I really want to bring this whatever certain deck. And then so then what, okay, that's fine. So then everybody else is coming. And so we're sitting and we're chatting, and then we're gonna start. And so they're all introducing themselves. And the first girl goes and she's talking and kind of about her journey. And she's like, I've only read in Bev's classes. I haven't like read for anybody else. So I'm really
Right.
nervous, but I'm here, I'm going to do it. And I'm like, yeah, this is what this is for. And she's like, I have this, and oh no, she hadn't said anything yet. She just introduced herself. And then by the third person was the lady that came and said, I forgot my cards.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, and she's introducing herself, blah, 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 talking. And then it just came out of my mouth, and I went, yeah. And unfortunately, she forgot her cards today. But if anyone else did, you can use the ones that I have here at the center.
Right.
And then the first girl goes, oh my God, now I know why. And we're like, what? Right. And she's like, I ordered, and it's the deck that the girl wanted to bring, like that she wanted to bring, but
Oh,
didn't
okay.
have one. But it's very similar. It's different, but similar.
Mhm.
And she's like, I ordered this angel tarot deck or something. And she's like, and every time I went to the checkout, there was two in my cart. And she's like, what the heck? So she kept
Oh,
taking it out and taking it out. And every time she go check out, okay, it shows one. And then
go to
she did it like two
proceed.
or three times. Yeah. Finally got it to where it said one in the checkout, paid for the one, whatever. Shows up at her house. She has two in the box.
I
She's
love
like,
it.
clearly meant to have two. And before she came, she got a message, bring those cards that aren't yours. And she
Yeah.
was like, what does that mean? Because she just tucked them in the closet. She's like,
Mhm.
and they just kept saying, bring the deck that's not yours. She's like, oh, okay. So she brought it. And yeah. And so she goes, that's why I was supposed to bring them. They're for you. Because the
Yeah.
other girl didn't bring hers. And she was like, everybody was like, oh, I got goosebumps.
Right. I love that.
It's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
that makes my heart so happy. And
Mhm.
I just love how it works. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just so cool for everybody to hear that and to experience that. And
Mhm.
yeah, such a gift. Yeah, super cool. So
It
if anyone's in
is.
the Saskatoon area and you've taken my classes,
Mhm.
yeah, I host these intuitive circles. So if you want to come and play and have fun and,
Mhm.
be around like-minded and all that good stuff, come and
Yeah.
join us. But yeah, it was cool. So
That's
yeah, it was a
awesome.
wonderful thing. And that's kind of what we've been up to. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
back to the swing of things and
Mhm.
had a magical time. And Shelly's going to be coming back
Yep.
here and there and here and there. And it's
Yeah.
going to be awesome. I'm really excited, and hopefully we're going to, be able to plan and put something on, or maybe an impromptu something. So
Mhm.
if you guys just want to keep your eyes and ears open on our social media platforms, if we do have something going on, then that's where
Yeah.
we'll be putting it.
Mhm.
And maybe we'll see you at something that we put on.
That's right. Yeah,
Whether it's
definitely.
October or November, I feel like maybe, or who
Yeah, we
knows,
haven't really
all the
decided,
times.
but we will.
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows, it could just be the spur of the moment thing, putting it out there, but just kind of want to give everybody a heads up that there's good possibility that something like that may happen. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
definitely.
gonna be awesome. So yeah,
Mhm.
I thank you for, having me at your place and hanging out
Of
with you for a
course.
couple of days, and
Always love
that
to have
was
you.
fun. Yeah, they were like, "Do you have to go home?" I was like, "The nicest compliment ever." I was like, "Yeah, I do.
Well, we
I
just
have to
enjoy
go
your
to work."
company.
Yeah, we loved being there too. So I
Yeah.
just love families. So yeah,
Mhm.
looking forward to more time together. And
Mhm.
yeah, thank you
Yeah.
everybody for listening in and joining us today. We
Yeah.
look forward to sharing more with you and hopefully seeing you all soon as well. So
Yes.
yeah, sending you all love and light and gratitude wherever this may find you. And thank you all for tuning in with us. Take care,
Yes.
everybody.
Take care, everyone.